Hi, everybody. If you've ever wondered what it would be like if two babies entered a real legal marriage together, then look no further because James and Tata got you covered. At the beginning of the season, Maytalia said that everyone calls her Tata, and then seemingly the entire 90-day viewership decided to just ignore that and call her by her full name, so I'm not sure what that's about. These two are a new couple from the current season of The Other Way, so I do have to give them some credit for the sole reason of not being boring repeats that we just can't get off our screens for some reason. I'm looking at you, Scrangela. I call these two babies because every single decision they make is on a whim and at the cost of their loved ones, and I feel like that level of stupidity and selfishness is really only apparent in human beings 3 years old and under.
Who wants to go to Indonesia?
It also doesn't help that Tata cried like 4 times in just the first episode alone.
She's told me several times, ever cheat on me, I will take your
At first I thought this was somewhat concerning, but after seeing more of their segments, I wouldn't even be that mad if Tata did this to James. It would at least add some sort of conflict to their story that isn't them just terrorizing their families with their entitlement. Also, this is totally the face of a man who has almost lost his to a woman before. He wouldn't look this scared talking about it otherwise. At the beginning of the season when they were still living in Maine, Tata said that she had been having serious health complications and that American doctors just couldn't fix it for some reason. I'm not saying the healthcare system here is great, it's actually so terrible, but how is it that she couldn't find a single doctor to help her? I just can't believe that they don't know how to handle a 27-year-old with a thyroid problem. Later, when she goes back to Indonesia, she becomes noticeably healthier, which makes me think that maybe there was a psychological reason behind her being so sick in America. But I'm not a doctor, what do I know?
I can be 1 to 1,000. For me, everything is so emotional. I cry a lot.
This line perfectly encapsulates Tata. For me, everything is so emotional. I can name multiple scenes from different episodes in which she cried. Keep in mind, the season is still only just getting started. I don't think there's anything wrong with crying, but with how frequently she does it, I'm almost worried about her.
He asked to marry me 5 days when he got here.
I know a lot of people are going to be shocked by them getting engaged after only knowing each other in person for 5 days, but that's exponentially longer than some other couples on the show.
This is why I miss Indonesia. I love my husband, but I'm not happy here.
I've never been to Maine, but I know enough about it to get why she'd want to leave. I too would not want to be in the same state as Stephen King's anthology of monsters. She's probably terrified that Pennywise the Clown is gonna attack next time she's out foraging for minerals or whatever it is they're doing out there. So James and Tata are planning on moving to Indonesia because Tata just doesn't want to live in America anymore, which is understandable. What I don't understand is that they chose not to tell either of their families that they were moving. This is especially bad for James, who has actually done this same exact thing before with his ex-wife. In his previous marriage, James left his family elevator repair business to move to Florida with his then wife, and it caused a lot of problems for the business and financial struggles for his family. So being the caring and considerate family man he is, James decided to just not tell them he was going to do the same thing again until like a day before he had to leave. Tata also didn't tell her parents that they were planning on moving in with them until they got to Indonesia, but they actually took that pretty well, unlike James's family for obvious reasons. In this next clip, James is taking Tata to the airport because she went to Indonesia about a month before he did. This is when James really starts to show his habit of not telling people important things, because right before she has to get on a very long flight, he tells her that their dog won't be able to come to Indonesia with them. This shot of the dog looking out the window in the rain is so powerful. It represents the innocence and depression of the moment, which you could really apply to any scene of James and Tata now that I think about it.
They also said that leaving James and Jojo behind.
Side note, how unfortunate is it that their dog is named Jojo? I feel like right now is just not a good time for the Jojos of the world, but maybe the dog will go on a bizarre adventure while they're away from the house.
I'm gonna try to work for your family.
If you work with my family, they won't pay you.
Well, then what are we gonna do for a job?
Another cute funny quirk about James and Tata that doesn't make my blood boil at all. They did zero planning on what their financial situation would be upon moving to Indonesia. Tata's parents have this banana chip business that they could work at, so James just assumes that's the perfect solution, but bad news, her parents won't pay family for working for them. James jumping from one family business to another with no regard for the feelings of the actual families is so crazy to me. Like, I wonder if Tata's parents would even want James making banana chips for them if they knew how flaky and dishonest he is. It's very apparent in how he treated his old family business.
They never pay for a family.
Okay, then why did we make that our plan?
Why did we make that our plan? What plan? So far, the only thing I've seen them actually plan is moving to Indonesia, but even then, James couldn't figure out how to pick a date for his flight.
And then when you gonna come to Indonesia? You didn't buy a ticket yet.
Next time we see Tata, she's back in Indonesia and she looks much healthier. It's a really big difference to how she looked in America. It was the first time I was actually happy for someone in their segments.
My family, they think I just visit for a month. I don't want to tell them that we are moved when James not here.
This is inexplicable to me. Why would she not tell her family that they're moving to Indonesia? I'd assume that they would be happy to have her back permanently. They act like it's going to be some huge problem to tell her family that they're moving, or anything for that matter. But really, the problem only arises when they wait to have these conversations. I'm curious if Tata had a pattern of doing this before, or if she's only being this secretive because it's what James wants.
Kalau misalnya nih, mau cerita, cuma Cece jangan bilang mama papa.
That's the most sibling thing to say ever. Don't tell mom and dad. I can't tell you the amount of times I've entered a conversation with my sister with those exact words. But for us, it was talks of pirating Animal Crossing amiibos, not moving across continents.
Tata sama si Jem mau pindah ke Indonesia. Kenapa emang sana kenapa?
Oh my god, that's so funny. What isn't wrong with James and Tata? Someone show this woman a supercut of every time James has withheld the truth.
Tapi kenapa kok harus pindah ke sini gitu? Terus sana ditinggalin, bukannya Jam di sana pun punya kerjaan itu.
I was actually a little surprised by the sister's reaction when Tata told her that she was moving back to Indonesia, but now I'm starting to get it. There's nothing wrong with Tata believing that she'll be happier in Indonesia because that definitely seems to be true, but her sister makes a good point when she brings up James's job. I don't have clips of this, but in a later scene, James talked about how he and Tata still owe $15,000 on a car they had in America. American dollars are worth significantly more than Indonesian rupiah, and James had a secure job in America, something he barely considered in Indonesia. If I were James and Tata, I would have chosen to stay in America for a little longer to make paying off the car easier. But I'm not on reality television for a reason. I don't make these kinds of stupid decisions. It's giving when Danielle tried to move to the Dominican Republic to escape her American debt. And another thing, James has had a long time to learn Bahasa Indonesia, Tata's native language, and he knows almost nothing. When he met her parents 5 years ago, their conditions for him marrying their daughter were that he would provide for her financially, learn their language, and have a kid someday. So far, he's given up his job, made no effort to learn Bahasa, and he secretly doesn't ever want to have children. Just focusing on the language part for now, that is absolutely ridiculous. After 5 years on a language that uses the same alphabet as English, James should be miles ahead of basic stuff. Learning a second language is hard, but certainly not impossible if you practice regularly, especially when he has unlimited access to a native speaker. There's no excuse for him not knowing Bahasa, and I actually find his refusal to learn it really disrespectful not only to Tata's parents, but to her as well. It's also just so dumb because he thinks he can move to Indonesia without knowing even a tiny bit of the language. What does he think he's going to accomplish there?
There's nothing done in this room. It looks like I'm stepping into a prison.
Again with James and his entitlement. I feel like he expects solutions to his problems to just fall out of the sky. Tata's parents are letting him live with them for free, and he complains that the room is unfinished. I don't know if he noticed, but the whole house is unfinished. They even talked about how they're still doing construction on it. If he wanted a place that would match his every requirement, then he could have figured that out for himself instead of forcing his living situation on his wife's parents. And if the reason for that is money, then again, they could have just stayed in America for a little longer. Do you see now why I think that James and Tata are like babies?
Sayangnya bisa bahasa Indonesia, tapi mamanya nggak bisa.
I'm sorry.
Maaf mama katanya.
Is this the face of an apologetic man? Is this the expression you give someone when you're sorry? He's literally grimacing. He knows he's completely failed on the promises he made to Tata's parents, and he's embarrassed that he's being exposed for it.
Pa.
Oh iya, itu
Lizard.
namanya cicak.
Maybe I'm crazy for this, but I wouldn't mind a stray lizard hanging out in my house every now and then. In terms of small creatures that can get into your home, lizards are probably the least terrifying. At least it isn't a giant spider or something.
I'm going to try to learn. I want to learn.
Do you, James?
Ingat dulu pernah janji kepengen bahasa Indonesia 5 tahun yang lalu.
I love Tata's parents for this. They are the voice of everyone watching James on a TV screen right now.
Maaf. Maaf, Pa.
Is it bad that I want an apology too? That's all the clips there are of James and Tata right now, but I guarantee their situation will only get worse. In the last episode, they finally told Tata's parents that they were moving to Indonesia permanently. They also explained their financial problems, which went well until it turned into Tata crying on the floor. I don't know if I've ever seen a couple start off their 90-day run in such a bad way. The only thing that might come close is Statler's attitude getting off the plane in England. Before I go, I want to say a huge thank you for the last video getting over 2,000 views. I'm still in the process of getting this channel started and figuring out what I'm gonna do here, so it was really cool to see that video do well for such a small amount of subscribers. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.